Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. Thank you everyone for your patience here as we were getting set up. We really appreciate Chris Vermeulen joining us today. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Always a pleasure, Elijah.
Well, it's totally my fault that we're a bit late today, but I really appreciate your patience and the audience patience here. We're seeing incredible moves in the markets. $4,000 gold, it broke last night, well above 4,000, about 4,050 at the moment. Silver is just a hair beneath $50. So your perspective on where we are at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's no doubt we're in that perfect storm. I mean, gold broke into a new super cycle, a bull market in 2019, and it's just been slowly maturing. And the technicals have been pointing to higher pricing up into this area for years. And finally, we're seeing that real big takeoff, and really just this year, we're really starting to see, I think, a lot of things come together in terms of not just the technicals, but we're also seeing kind of fundamental data. There's a lot of currency concerns out there. We've got war. We've got a lot of um, people aren't trusting the systems, governments. There's just a lot of chaos. And that is usually when gold starts to thrive. People don't believe systems aren't there protecting them. They believe systems are going to break. And so people naturally will navigate away from things in the financial markets, like potentially equities and in the banking system, and they're going to want to go to physical metals to protect themselves, just because it has a store of value and it's not just zeros or a bank that can go bankrupt overnight from gambling your money. So we're in that perfect storm. We're in a sweet spot where gold, silver miners, platinum, palladium, all of these things are now just in the past month have come to life. And this is usually like the feeding frenzy. We should see, I think, another big surge higher in all of the whole precious metals complex in general here.
Certainly. And when it comes to the charts, what are you seeing at the moment for gold? A lot of people are talking about how, some technical indicators are showing gold very overbought at the moment, but others are saying, given the nature of the bull market at the moment, you can't necessarily trust those. Your perspective on what we're seeing based on the charts.
Yeah, I mean we're kind of into new territory based on how I chart things. So we hit a target at, well, 4,100, 4,000, like $80 is kind of the next measured move based on Fibonacci extensions, which you and I have talked about when we Fibonacci theory usually is pretty darn accurate when it comes to predicting forward targets where resistance is going to hit. So just based on this price action, we more or less have 4,090, 4,080, give or take, to the upside, where gold is probably going to run into a little bit of a ceiling and start to have a bit of a pause or a pullback. So what this is showing us is just based on the last major rally to the upside and then the multi-month pullback, it's telling us we should go up to the 618 level, which is known as the golden ratio. And typically, if price pauses at the golden ratio of 618, it's usually going to go up for that full 100% measured move, meaning whatever this distance was on the first half, we're going to see that second half happen as well. So we're just getting to this point. In fact, we just hit a target as you and I are speaking today on a gold trade, a specific short-term trade, because we are now at that point where, hey, gold might actually pull back and have a little bit of a pause and pullback for potentially even a couple weeks. It might even be, just a few days, but overall, this is a technical point. So I like gold, I like silver, but they are feeling a little crowded. Look at the volume on the gold futures. It's just kind of ramping up. It's pretty much all green. Almost every day we're seeing gold, silver, and miners move higher. And that's just because we're in that perfect storm where the stars align and there's enough people naturally gravitating. It's almost like when a planet starts to get big enough, it gets a bigger magnetic pull, or like a city, like a magnetic city pulls in people interested in that space. And that's what gold is doing. It's shining so bright in miners and silver that it's really just kind of the beacon. Everybody's hearing about it in the news and they want to be part of it. And we see that in the volume. And to me, that's a sign that it's a little bit overdone and we're at a target. And that's typically what happens is we get this sense, this feeling, just as things go to take a little bit of a pause. But I do think gold could still shoot dramatically higher, potentially another 10, 15% from where we are. So I really like the, excuse me, I really like this space. I own a lot of physical gold and silver. And I mean, who doesn't? We've been waiting for, really this big rocket ship kind of rally for a long time, it feels like. And now silver is about to hit new all-time highs, which is pretty darn exciting.
And did you want to share the chart of silver at the moment? What are we seeing as it seems like we're making that triple top here? And, this huge cup and handle formation that so many people have talked about seems to possibly be playing out at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back and this goes all the way back to the 2011 peak in silver, and this is kind of the same. So I'll just quickly pull up the chart of gold and just look at the price action, the parabolic, the straight up moves. If we look at gold, it's shooting straight up the right-hand side of the chart. If we go and we look at, for example, gold miners like GDX, it's gone parabolic. I mean, it's they're golden rocket ships. They're just taking off. Same with silver miners. And so if we go back to look at silver, this is the thing. Usually things that go straight up are going to, once they do put in a top, they're going to come straight back down for at least half of that move. So again, the technicals right now for gold are hitting a key level where we might see it push a little bit higher temporarily, but overall, gold is at a resistance level based on Fibonacci, which I find is one of the most powerful tools for finding upside resistance levels or hidden resistance levels. And then silver is tagging a double top here. I do think silver is going to want to try and hit an all-time high first, but overall, it is also at resistance as a huge double top. So, there's a bit of a warning sign in the short term saying, hey, I wouldn't really buy right now. I think waiting a week or so or a couple of weeks to let this have a little bit of a pause or pullback. Because if we do get a sideways pause here, if it holds up really nicely over the next week or two, uh, we could see another explosive move in silver and gold. We could see silver shoot up into the 80s. Like, I mean, we could see this crazy parabolic spike, right? So that's what's really exciting about it is there's a lot of built up energy. People in the precious metal space have been waiting for this run in silver, gold, and miners like a decade, it feels like more or less. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, if we go and look at the large cap gold stocks, you wait since, you wait 14 years, finally gold stocks are breaking out. And this is the monthly chart. And this is the thing, people wait so long in the precious metal space to get back to where they were a long time ago. And then we get this huge rally and nobody wants to, exit positions right now because they're like, it just started. I just started making money in some cases. But this is the problem is rallies happen very quickly. So I love the precious metal space. I do think it's getting a little frothy. I think a little bit of a pause or pullback is a good thing. But I long-term wise, I mean, I'm very, very bullish on gold and silver. I think they'll go dramatically higher and the miners eventually as well.
Now, you mentioned the possibility of a short pullback here. It's interesting because it seems like a lot of people who have been waiting for pullbacks, we see like a momentary intraday pullback, and then the next day prices are higher. I mean, that's what we've been seeing over the last few mo weeks, last month or so. So it, what is your take on what kind of pullback we could be seeing? Because it seems like every single one is almost like a fake out or something.
Yeah, well, the price action, as you mentioned, if we zoom into the intraday charts or even the daily chart here, we're starting to get into what is called a running correction. So it's channeling higher and it's kind of ping-ponging around back and forth from one end to the other. And generally, you want to see price run up, and then you want to see it kind of flag and take a bit of a breather, and then you want to see the second half of the move. Those are bullish chart price actions patterns. When it's doing a running correction, what it's saying is volatility is increasing. Usually, volume is increasing as well, and it's a battle between people piling in FOMO and then also people taking bouts of profit selling. And so that's what's happening. And the problem with this chart pattern, and this is the silver chart, is that you don't know which way it's going to break. It's a very explosive pattern, and a lot of times it'll usually have a quick, strong pop to the upside, but then it'll actually crack to the downside and have a bigger correction. So whenever it does put in a reversal candle, like when it does roll over, then we can use Fibonacci retracements, which a retracement tells us based on Fibonacci theory where price should pull back to. So based on this last run up, if this is the high where we're at right now, for example, it's going to want to naturally pull back down to the 38% retracement level or down to the 50%. So this will be the sweet spot down here where it could actually shake people up and shake things up and reset, which is 42 to $44. And that'll definitely, spark a lot of selling. That'll spark anybody who's been piling in this running correction who feel like they're missing out and they're getting in late, more or less at this point. This will probably cleanse them. It'll spook them out. They'll be like, "Why do I always buy the high?" So that's the sweet spot at this point is around 42 to 44. But again, if silver and gold, continue to push higher, obviously that pullback level moves up with it. So, that starts to get up into the 45 range, 46 range. So it just depends on where silver puts in a top and then reverses down. Then we can calculate where momentum should naturally stall out, the selling momentum, and where buyers should start to step in.
Now, when it comes to the retail space, what I've found interesting is really up until September, it was eerily quiet, but then it really
Mhm.
started to pick up, especially in the last couple weeks here. It's been quite busy. Your take on that, the retail involvement, it seems like the public is kind of just getting involved now.
Mhm. And that's the way I see it. I don't have the full charts up here, but if we were to go back and compare 2007, just as gold and silver were rocketing higher and the stock market was just about to put in a major top, we're in a very similar situation. You and I have kind of covered this comparison chart in the past. But what's interesting, as you just mentioned, the retail investor is just starting to get hot and heavy about this. They're just starting to move in, which is why we see a lot of volume in the precious metal space and the ETFs. One other thing that really sparks is obviously miners have taken off, and that's people wanting to make as much as they can. They want to play the leverage play on physical metals. But we're also seeing platinum and palladium. In both of these, this is the daily chart, just started really taking off like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So that's platinum, which has taken off. And if we look at palladium, it's up 7.5% today. This is the exact type of price action that happens when the mass psychology, they all just want into the precious metals space. And this is what we saw in 2007. We saw miners finally start to outperform. We saw platinum and palladium come to life and rocket higher with volume. And that tells us retail traders are now piling in, they're chasing. It's a FOMO trade. And you just have to let this rally and this little bit of a bubble, short-term bubble, continue to play out. You do not want to step in front of this because who knows how high it could spike. We're in a perfect storm for metals to just keep running higher and higher.
Do you want to stay a little bit with platinum here? I know we've been talking about this for quite a while. When platinum was under $1,000, this year has been an incredible run with platinum, and it seems like what's interesting is when you were pointing out the what we're seeing in silver right now, kind of that it running higher but kind of cautiously.
Yeah.
Um, what we that's kind of what we saw earlier this year with platinum, if you want to talk about that. And that we did see quite a bit of a consolidation in platinum after you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, platinum's gone through a pretty big phase. I remember a long, long time ago, everybody wanted platinum because it was worth more than gold, and then platinum just fell out of favor, and it's been in what is called a more or less a stage one base, which is kind of a dead zone. You and I have shared this. If we look at the stages of the market, it's in a stage one basing, which I shade red. It's a sideways point in the market. It's dead money. You just kind of ignore it until it starts a stage two bull market. And so we have now seen platinum break out of that. Volume is back into this space. And if we just kind of fast forward to the price action that we're at now, we can get an idea of where platinum might run out of steam. Using Fibonacci, we can take this low, we can go up to the high, and based on the strength of this pullback, it's going to tell us where these next levels are for platinum. So the general rule is if price comes up to around the 618 and has some type of pause or hiccup, it means that's a pretty good gauge of the overall resistance level. And then if it can break through that, then we're probably going to head up to the next level, which is $1,900 an ounce. So it still has room to run. I don't know what that is percentage wise. We can take a quick look, but it's about a 12% upside, and that would complete this chart pattern and bring us into a kind of an invisible resistance area on the chart.
Certainly. And as for palladium, I know that's not really a metal we have covered much, but it also has been running higher in the last couple of weeks. Your take on where palladium is right now?
Yeah, I mean it's carved out a bottom. It put in a big base. It took years to unfold here, a couple of years, and then now it's working its way higher. And again, if you just look visually at that chart, what happens every time when we see a great big parabolic spike in an asset class or even palladium here? It pops straight up. It'll eventually run out of steam, and then it rolls over and fizzles out. So this is kind of where we are in a nutshell in the precious metal space. Everything has just had one of these kind of mini parabolic pops and bubbles. And the question is, when does the retail trader who's going to get into gold right now, when do they run out? When are they finished buying? And that's when we're going to run out of steam. We just don't know how big of a herd it is. Are we just starting that train, which a lot of people believe, and there's millions and millions of investors that are haven't even started to get into it, or are the people who are actually interested in getting into gold just getting in now and there's not many left? That's the big question. The price action is telling us we're really close to running out of buyers for precious metals. Everybody's been accumulating it. Now it's the feeding frenzy zone. This is kind of the euphoric phase, which you and I have touched on before, Elijah. If we look at the emotions of the markets, we're in this euphoric phase where things just shoot higher and everybody's like, I'm a genius. Everything I do is making money. I'm richer than I've ever been. But after good times usually comes difficult times, and that's what people don't prepare for. They think when things are going really well, they're going to continue, and then usually they get caught holding something that eventually pulls back, and it could take years to recover from. So that's kind of the precious metal space in a nutshell. Is it's a little frothy, but there's no doubt it's in a strong uptrend. It needs a bit of a breather though.
Now, longer term, then you're still looking for higher prices, but it sounds like we are kind of in this third stage of the bull market, this euphoria phase. So, what are some of the caution signs that, the whole bull market could be ending? What will you be looking out for?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think one of them is what we've already covered, which is you see miners, you see platinum and palladium come to life with big volume. That's usually a very good indicator because now everybody's looking for anything in the precious metal space. Um, we are seeing, the US dollar, the currency is out of favor. It's like one of the most hated currencies, it seems, and everybody thinks it's going to collapse, and it will probably eventually. It's a fiat currency. But this is the type of scenario where everybody, just wants in the precious metal space. They think the dollar is going to collapse even more. And, people are we're starting to just see signs that the economy, I think, is going to start to stall out just based on sentiment and things. Like if we look at, I have this sentiment chart here. This is color coding the market of what investors are kind of big money investors are doing with their money, and more or less, big money investors right now, these red and orange bars are telling us there's danger. They're being defensive. They're being protective. The last time we saw something like this was right over here. We saw the stock market move higher. This was all-time highs on the stock market. And then, of course, we went into a huge sell-off. There was a tariff event. And so we're seeing something similar right now where big money is not really fully engaging here. The money flowing into this market uh, isn't so much the Magnificent Seven. They've been all trading sideways for like the past month. It's money's piling into small caps and micro cap stocks. And that's telling us that's the retail trader. They're like, get me into these tiny little companies. I want to ride this bull market. I want to make big money. And that to me is a contrarian indicator. When everyone is piling into what is the most volatile stuff, that is a sign that, okay, that's the last people moving in. And they usually are very close to buying at a high. And they usually don't have an exit strategy because they don't think the market is rolling over. They think we're starting a new bull market and we're going to continue higher for years. So that's it from a high level of how I see and feel the momentum of money flowing in the markets. I don't really cover the economic and the fundamental data too much. I really stick to the charts and the money flows. The money flows tell me what people are thinking and doing with their money. That to me is more important than what the headline news is or what the Fed is doing.
Well, Chris, we always appreciate your time, especially at these times when things are just exploding and we really need to get your take on the markets. We appreciate you joining us here for this live stream. Any last thoughts before we let you go? And where can our viewers find you online?
Yeah, I appreciate it anytime. And yeah, if people like the type of analysis that I do, the best spots to go to my website, thetechnicaltraders.com, or they can go to my YouTube channel, The Technical Traders. And I share insight on the markets. I share some discretionary trades, some extra bonus trades, which we just closed one out in the precious metal space today. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I manage my money. I shared my exact trades that I do with my portfolio, and we just all kind of trade together.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for your time today and God bless.
Thanks, Elijah. Take care.